meeting to order. This is the Highland Park Planning Board, February 12th, 2026 meeting. This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Highland Park Planet on January 12th, 2026, and was posted on the Borough website at www.hpborough.com and on the bulletin board at Borough Hall at 221 South 5th Avenue, Highland Park, New Jersey, and has remained continuously posted as required by law. Fire exits are to the right and left, and please, as always, remember to speak into the microphones. Okay, if we could have a roll call, please. Oh, yeah, I was just going to do it afterwards. I'm going to do it. Do the roll call first.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. Brusher?
Here.
Mr. Chin?
Here.
Ms. Hatzi? Mr. Hale? Mr. Ho?
Present.
Mr. Linares?
Here.
Mr. Malay? Mr. Perlman?
May I hear on my own? Yeah, I'm here.
Mr. Stern Cardinal?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Cosenza?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
All right, very good. So we will do the Pledge of Allegiance now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. All right, first up, we are revisiting the YFM LNN 810 North 2nd Avenue LLC Resolution P2025-02 to address some minor modifications to comply with the court rules. And I'm going to turn over to our attorney, Roger Thomas, for comments on the proposed resolution.
I beg your indulgence with my mask. I'm not here to rob anybody. I just have, excuse me, a bout of bronchitis, and I don't want to have anybody else get sick. It has been pointed out that there's been a revision suggested, again, by Mr. Williams, which I appreciate. On page 2, the next to last line, there's a reference where it says that the proposed plans will reduce impervious coverage. That should actually be will not reduce impervious coverage. And with that modification, I would offer this as a final resolution for this particular matter. And then we will make the necessary modification. It'll be on the record, and then I'll send a copy to Maureen.
Thank you. This was originally heard at our August 14th meeting, and I will open this up to any comments from the board on the final form of the proposed resolution, subject to the amendment that Mr. Thomas just put forth. Anybody?
I just have a question, which is that is there any concern about the resolution stating what Mr. Murphy's testimony was being different from what he actually testified to, which may have just been a misstatement on his part?
No, there's not really any concern. I'm not sure that I don't think it's been suggested that that's not what he stated, that it was going to be. It was going to be reduced. You're saying he stated that he was not going to be reduced. Is that what you're saying, Alan? I need to understand that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, no.
on this. He initially, sorry. I believe that Mr. Murphy misspoke. That he said it will
reduce impervious coverage.
yeah, and that is not true because they're not changing anything on the outside of the building.
But that was his testimony.
That's correct.
And in that case, I would suggest that in fact the resolution is accurate because it's a reflection of the actual testimony. So therefore, I'll withdraw the modification and submit the resolution as it is. It doesn't change anything in the resolution. It is his statement. The fact that it was a misstatement on the part of Mr. Murphy would presumably either be reflected and then at some point, excuse me, but it doesn't change any of the conditions, and that's really fundamentally the important thing of what is involved in these resolutions. So I would suggest, with all due respect, Mr. Williams, I thought you had indicated that it was your recollection that it was a misstatement in the resolution, and that Mr. Murphy had actually said that there was not going to be a reduction. We can't change what he said.
Okay.
The resolution should reflect accurately what he said. If it was wrong, It's wrong, but nonetheless. So therefore, I would withdraw that modification and suggest that the resolution as submitted is an accurate reflection of what transpired on that original date.
That makes sense.
Thank you, though, for that comment.
All right.
Excuse me.
Okay, then, with that, I will solicit a motion to approve the resolution of memorialization of the approval of that application.
Motion to approve.
Motion,
Second.
seconded by Alvin.
Yes.
Take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brescher,
Yes.
Mr. Chin,
Yes.
Mr. Ho,
Yes.
Mr. Lenara,
Yes.
Mr. Perlman,
Abstain, I don't believe I was at the planning board meeting when the application was heard and approved.
Mr. Stern Cardinal,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes,
Ms. Hand.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to the next item on our agenda. We have a consistency review for ordinance number 26-2124, an ordinance of the Borough of Highland Park, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending the downtown redevelopment plan for tracts A through D. So our town council would like our review on whether their resolution is not inconsistent with our town's master plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to our planner to explain to us what council has done and whether or not it's consistent with our, not inconsistent with our master plan.
And Chris, just for the record, you are the author of this plan, is that correct?
Yes,
And it was done under your direction and control?
yes.
And okay, with that, why don't you give the explanation as you feel appropriate?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Let me share my screen. Okay. Thank you. All right, so I'll be brief. This is really starts with a back in 2003 when we looked at downtown redevelopment, at least the concept of redevelopment in the downtown area. Tonight we're looking at a ordinance to formally adopt by council in second reading a redevelopment plan for various tracts of the downtown area that we've known over the years as tracts A, B, C, and D. Not a groundbreaking or earth-shattering set of names, but it did at the time in 2001 we did that first plan. With regards to the process of how a redevelopment plan is adopted, it's first prepared by either council or planning board, and there's really two paths that the borough could take. One could be that the borough council prepares the plan, they introduce the ordinance for introduction, and then the planning board does its consistency review, and then it's brought back to the governing body for second reading for public hearing and to adopt the redevelopment plan. The second alternative would be the planning board prepares the plan, in which case they actually do the consistency review as part of their presentation, and then they forward it to council for first reading and then second reading. What the borough has done over the years, and it's consistent with this process, we are going with the former process, which is it's first introduced, we review it, the planning board, and its reports get it back to council for the recommendations to adopt. So there's certain statutory requirements in the local redevelopment housing law as to what constitutes a, say, more or less a legal redevelopment plan. There's 8 points in the statute. One is the relationship to local objective. That's essentially a reflection of existing conditions in the master plan. Proposed zoning requirements, discussion on the provision of relocation, identification, and inventory of housing units or property required. Its relationship to the surrounding communities. Actually, that's a misnomer. That's a number 5 is incorrect. That should be Edison, Piscataway, and New Brunswick. So this is far reflections. That's my fault. And then number 7 and 8 are recent. Number 8, the recent addition or statutory amendment, a plan for zero emission or charging infrastructure. So those 8 elements must be in your plan. The planning board's role tonight, as Madam Chairperson indicated, is to ensure that all provisions shall be either substantially consistent with or designed to effectuate the master plan. It's actually slightly different than a typical land development ordinance. In that case, you're supposed to make the finding that it's not inconsistent with the master plan. In this case, under the redevelopment statute, it's actually worded slightly differently for whatever reason, that all provisions are either substantially consistent or designed to effectuate the master plan. And then, of course, in terms of timing, the planning board is to, within 45 days referral, to provide a report, which could be by way of a resolution. So as I indicated at the top, the redevelopment process for the downtown in general has its roots back in 2003 in its master plan adoption. Several downtown properties, including the majority of Tract A, was designated an area in need of redevelopment, and a plan was created for all those properties, including a majority of Tract A. 2010 was a master plan reexamination, which indicated there had been a lack of redevelopment downtown. And in 2016, which is at around the time where I actually came board with LRK to be the borough's planner, recommended a process for declaring the whole community be an area in need of rehabilitation, which enables the development of redevelopment plans in a much more efficient manner. Because many of the issues of the original plan from 2005 was that we'll call it checkerboarded. The properties were checkerboarded, so some properties were in, out, so it was very difficult to assemble properties because one was in the plan, one was not in the redevelopment area. So the rehabilitation designation actually addresses a lot of that. And some of our plans we've adopted over the years has been under only the rehabilitation designation. And in 2019, the master plan is re-examined, and there's been a slew of activities ever since the pandemic, specifically related to Tract A, and that is during the pandemic, we felt that was a need to really come out of it with a plan to address the issues in the downtown. And so we did some concept planning, which was embedded into the 21 redevelopment plan and 2021. Shortly thereafter, an RFP was issued, and two redevelopers were identified. One for Tract C, the Garden Homes, as well as for Tract A by Dead Tantlets Group called Rare Dan Redevelopment LLC. You recall about a year and a half ago, the redevelopment plan of 2021 was amended in 2024 after we did an expansion of Tract C. And then most recently, we did the Classic Cleaners Condemnation Area Need Study, which the borough adopted and designated area need. And actually around the same time, a few months later, we just did a Sunoco property, which relates to the Tract B properties and adjacent properties. And we had a community meeting, and we're here tonight to really consider yet another amended version of the redevelopment plan for downtown Tracts A to D. So this is the third edition. So what's the purpose of this plan? It's to further amend that 2021 redevelopment plan. It was amended already 2024. We're amending it again, specifically for Tract A. But you can see through that really thick document that you have, it still applies to Tracts A through D, with minimal changes to Tracts B, C, and D. I say minimal because it's not none. So I'll go over what those changes were, fairly minor in the grand scheme of things. It's also important for the purpose of this plan to acknowledge that there is a condemnation redevelopment designation for the Classic Cleaners. And of course, we have an enhanced vision with graphics of the plans that were introduced to the community that's embedded into this plan for transparency. And with that, there's some minor refinements to the zoning regulations, meaning there already are zoning regulations. So we're, again, just tweaking them based on the concept that was shared. And as I indicated before, some minor housekeeping for consistency with all the tracks. In terms of the existing conditions, this is a graphic on the left is a land use plan. You can tell that it's varied, and it varies between each tract. So for Tract D, for example, is primarily retail, but that's in part because the lots associated with it in red doesn't mean it's all retail. A lot of it's actually a surface parking lot. Tract C has a large community space, which is really essentially the farmer's market, and is surrounded by a mix of retail and office uses, as well as some residential. Tract B is just two small lots, residential scale buildings converted to office over the years. Tract A is unique because it does have some retail, but it's predominantly automotive establishments, which are now vacant, as well as vacant land. So despite being in a downtown location, it has a lot of vacant land and vacant buildings. And it's only several thousand square feet of actual usable retail space. In terms of the zoning, that's the map on the right side. You'll see in a darker blue, essentially the 2024 downtown redevelopment plan. And this amended redevelopment plan for tonight, 2026 to January, is the same area as the 2024 plans. We're not changing the boundaries, unlike the last time, because the last time in 2024, we had to consider additional properties to track C. For 2026, same boundaries, tracks A, B, C, D are not changing. And all we're really doing is updating the zoning regulations and division. As I indicated before, track A has a couple acres, including vacant land, vacant buildings, only a small amount of retail space, including the Classic Cleaners operation, as well as the, I think the Gun and Boat is now a upcycle business. That just recently renovated the facade. It's quite nice. In terms of the original vision, this dates back to 2021, so we're talking 5 years ago. The original vision was really the first point is primarily to bring people to live, work, and shop downtown. And that really applies to all four tracts of land. And specifically tract A, it was contemplated at the time to be a phased approach. Of course, that was considering that it was owned by several different property owners. If you recall, parts of tract C and only a small portion of tract A had borough-owned properties. That's sort of what really brought forward this concept of let's start to try to redevelop downtown, what the properties that we own, do an RFP process and see if there's any interest in it. And tract B was included because there already was a concept, and tract D was included, recall, because we were really focused on a centralized parking structure. Over the years, that's evolved. That hasn't really moved forward. So tract C has moved forward in a different way by having parking on site. Just like with tract A, we're moving forward without tract D, we're going to parking on site. We got to move forward. And over the time, the borough has purchased several properties and actually owns almost the entire project area, except for the Classic Cleaners property. Again, the original vision was to infill with one or more taller mixed-use building, which is similar to the tract C vision. And among the goals and objectives was to really include an activated ground level, which could include amenity space of residential as well as non-residential uses with residential above. In terms of the history of tract A, basically what have we done since 2021? Because at the time, I believe you had only had ownership over the Bergen Auto dealership. The borough has now since taken ownership of the Ubris because of the title swap. Ubris was relocated to where P&K Auto is on Woodridge Avenue. And the borough, as part of the Gateway redevelopment study done, I believe, in 2020, they took ownership of the Gun and Boat property as well as the vacant properties behind it facing Denison. So essentially, we have ownership, as indicated in blue. The borough has ownership of all the properties in blue, except for the Classic Cleaners property. So the phased approach no longer is applicable because the borough essentially has ownership and the plan of most of the properties, and the plan essentially is not changing. We're going to focus on a more unified single project. And with a single unified project, but frankly, it's a large site. So the same concerns we have with tract C was we don't want this to be a hulking building looming over Raritan Avenue and create a lot of shade and shadow on to adjacent properties. So it's important again for this site to break down the building to smaller building forms. These are the same talking points we have for tract C. Take that one large building and break it down to smaller forms so it looked like different buildings were developed over time, just like the rest of Highland Park. And with that long frontage along Raritan Avenue, really try to enhance the streetscape, which includes infrastructure, wider setbacks, and so on and so forth. Trying to balance the non-residential space, and there's concerns about, is there any retail? Well, there will be, but there's recognition that perhaps there could be too much retail was the thought process, the same process we had back in 2021 and throughout today. And with the concept plan that was considered, that'll be our opportunity to sort of tweak and manage the bulk regulations, design standards to make sure that what is in the plan would allow for the concept to come forward. So if you were at the community meeting, you would have seen some of these slides, I believe, it's on also for our website. So these were renderings that the additional redeveloper, Raritan Redevelopment LLC, prepared at the meeting. This is after several years of negotiation and trying to figure out what properties and ownership of, and try to push the buildings in and out, try to get some proper streetscape conditions and making sure there's no driveways on Raritan Avenue, which is one of the key goals of the master plan. So this is a concept that was shared publicly. Obviously, it's still a work in progress, but it was a nice effort to show the brick loft building fronting up forward, close to the Ellenicon building and then stepping the building back with the 5th story stepping back. So the attempt here to break down the building to multiple different forms and have similar architecture treatments, but mainly brick and fiber cement siding and related elements. This is the other view, basically standing in the Sunoco Station parking lot, looking towards the patio of Ellenicon. And the building here, so again, it's a big building, so we're going to keep working to break down the building in different forms. Still work in progress, but the good thing is that almost the entire projects actually conform with the underlying zones. We're making minor tweaks to really allow for that sort of, I'll call it the brick loft style building, which is something that we would like to see. So in terms of the actual amendments to the redevelopment plan, so I'm going to focus first on track A regulations. The first part is the land use regulations. The permitted uses are already provide flexibility. We made a lot of changes back in 2021 as a result, 2024, based on community feedback. There's the, should that corner of track C be a 2-story restaurant? What about flex spaces, event space? That's what we need. We need more event space. Great ideas from the public, so we integrated that into the track C plan, and we carry that over to track A as well, just for consistency. And unlike, if you recall, the original vision was as a pure concept, we didn't have a developer or a real building at the time, was let's start with residential over retail, not knowing what it might be. Let's set the basic zoning standards and we'll do an RFP. So with this concept, we would, just like with track C, we would allow for some residential on the ground floor, and that's why I put limited frontage. And I think in the plan, we have a numerical or really percentage limit, and that's a maximum of 20%. So it's actually a small percentage of the building will be residential on the ground floor facing the street. The remainder is 80% plus would be all retail, or could be a combination of retail with limited space. And that's what I expect to be a balance of the two. In terms of the bulk regulations, so we're talking about setbacks, height, coverage, and whatnot. We did reduce the setback towards the rear, at the top of the image, between lot 49 and lot 20, from 5 feet to 0. This is the property that's essentially a driveway with some garages on the ground level associated with the Highland Montgomery apartment complex. In a perfect world, it won't be 0 foot setback, but their setback was reduced to 0, from 5 to 0, to allow for flexibility, because we want to start pushing the building back a little bit from Raritan. We might need a little bit more flexibility in the rear yard setback, which would be to benefit for better tree pits and landscaping and street furniture on the street. After all, we're talking about 4 and 5-story building on Raritan Avenue. We did reduce the setback on the lower levels of the, we'll call it the right side of the image. So these are the lots that front and north second. So these are residential properties. Obviously, the concern is, well, we got to make sure the building does not loom over those rear yards. So we maintain the 10-foot setback for the upper levels. And through, if you recall from this concept plan, I don't have a picture of it, but it actually steps back further than 10 feet. So we're still working on that issue, but we did reduce it on the lower level because it's a more efficient use of space if it's just a 5-foot alley. And that could be a space where people walk down. It actually used to be, you'll see that lot line, it continues from the bottom right to the upper left. That used to be a alley sort of right away, like decades ago. And all other setbacks related to the building are unchanged. In terms of height, it's still a 5-story building. The only thing that's tweaked was to allow for the 5-story to pop forward on the 5th level, just for a portion of the building. That's really to accommodate that sort of brick loft style building. So this reads as one building and the others read as different elements. Otherwise, we maintain that 5th floor setback that was in the original 2021 and 2024 plan for the remainder of the building. In terms of building coverage and impervious coverage, they are unchanged, still 75 and 90% respectively. But we did clarify that amenity areas, basically over parking levels, where you could introduce green infrastructure elements that could reduce the building coverage. Otherwise, let's say the C-shaped building around on top of parking structure, that's meant to allow for flexibility, but obviously encourage green infrastructure to manage that stormwater. But still 75 to 90% unchanged from 2021. In terms of development standards, so these are just design and site development standards, not bulk. So this is to require, again, the building be broken up into smaller forms and building elements, just like with track C. We did have an opportunity to enhance and kind of clean up some of the building design and streetscape standards for track A, just make sure it's an enjoyable, walkable space. We did limit service areas to the bottom on Dennison Avenue, Dennison Street. However, recognizing this is not a corner lot condition, there's no way to get to the side. So we did consider a temporary staging area just for the non-residential uses on the ground level. So that still needs design, but we did put in a plan to allow for flexibility. Unlike for track C, they have access to South Second, so you get access through that street. Track A does not have that advantage because they're sort of landlocked between properties. And then we allow for loading on the street where it is permitted by law. Other amendments, so this applies to minor tweaks to all the tracks. So just for transparency, just want to try to do some cleanup. We amended the permitted uses for all the other tracks to be consistent with track A and C for that matter. We clarified where service areas could be, which is similar to what we did for track C and A, so to try to use the same language for tracks B and D. The third bullet point is to add a single family dwelling as a permitted use on a lot within track B. Frankly, that was a mistake on my part because I missed it back in 2021. There is a single family property on facing Dennison Street. So this is an opportunity to fix that and allow that use to continue as a permitted use. And then with that, we added standards for accessory uses and some design standards for single family homes, basically referring to the underlying zoning. We clarified the definition of height. There's really any significant change. It's really making it clear the measurements are taken from Raritan Avenue. So it's a lot of grade change. So this makes it clear for the developers. There was a lot of confusion before. This cleans it up. And did a couple of redevelopers, both for track C and A, did ask questions like, hey, what's the setback for AC units? That's another mistake. I forgot to put in setback standards for accessory structures. So that's been added to clean it up and will be in all future plans, I promise. And then, of course, we added in regulations for fences and walls, mainly because the current zoning ordinance has step back regulations for retaining walls, which is odd. Not all communities have that. It's really to deal with really high retaining walls. In this case, we're not anticipating that to happen, so we just want to clean that up and make sure that doesn't trigger a variance condition. Other amendments include improving the street and sidewalk, really to require permeable areas, green infrastructure along the street. We really do want to have improved street pits along Raritan Avenue, and that applies to all 4 tracks, especially C and A, since they're the ones moving forward. So we're going to hold the hand to the fire, make sure they provide for a really good streetscape, obviously with DOT review and approval. And then some minor tweaks, with mainly cleaning up, clarifying the building materials must transition at inside corners, which is an urban design element, and really enhancing some of the landscaping and refuse and recycling. Mainly in part because we've done other redevelopment plans. So as we do more redevelopment planning, I learned just lessons learned, how I write standards and borrow them and bring them back into this one. So in terms of the relationship to the master plan, if you recall back in 2019, there was a survey that was taken, I think about 600 people took it, and only 9% of the respondents indicated they wanted to make downtown area to remain the same. So the vast majority of people said something needs to happen. Among the comments was that the downtown area needs mixed-use development with higher density housing, including multifamily and affordable units. They acknowledged, and we put in the master plan, that there's a high number of vacant properties and buildings. There's too many auto-oriented businesses, and this is an example where we purchased a property and relocated another to ensure that there's no more automobile parcels in the middle of downtown area. Woodbridge Avenue is fine. And then there's also a lack of consolidated parking near major attractions. So that was a statement back in 2019. When we did the redevelopment plan back in 2021, that was the main focus was centralized parking on track D. Obviously, we're moving forward in a different way. And finally, I thought this was interesting. I like putting in these plans because a member of the community said, I love the feel of our community, but the area between First and Second Avenue needs major attention. And this is the area we're talking about, track A in particular. Among the strategies that were developed out of the master plan with community input, as well as feedback from the master plan subcommittee, was that we should take advantage of custom tailored infill redevelopment by utilizing the redevelopment law. Expand a variety of active ground floor uses, and we're doing that through redevelopment, as well as looking at updating our zoning ordinances for the CBD and C zones, which will be something before you within the next couple of months. Also look at expanding the downtown resident customer base, which means putting boots on the ground, people with put people living on downtown, support local business, and establish a public gathering space. Doesn't really apply to tract A, although there'll be a nice frontage, so we create small interstitial spaces. But the main, we're able to achieve that through tract C development as well as the South Third Plaza. And of course, encouraging any level of upgrading and investment. In the plan, you'll see I have some talking points about its relationship to adjacent communities. Obviously, this is the existing redevelopment plan. We're simply amending it, and it's in the center of downtown. It will have no impact to the adjacent communities. And it's a concept that's supported by the Middlesex County Comprehensive Plan, the Land Use Plan, and the state plan, which actually was just updated in December of last year. I think the easiest way to say is that in the grand scheme of things, not much has changed other than a couple additional goals, but otherwise, in terms of the policy map, this area, as well as almost the entire community, is within the Metropolitan Planning Area 1, which is an area that supports smart growth and downtown redevelopment, recentering and whatnot. So with that being said, that means what I'm trying to say is that this redevelopment plan is consistent with the master plan of the Borough of Highland Park. And does not conflict with the adjacent communities, Middlesex County Comprehensive Plan, and the New Jersey State Plan. So going back to the statutory requirements, let's make sure we hit them all. So the relationship to local objectives, you already heard my commentary on the master plan. It's using the tools offered by the state for local redevelopment to custom tailor infill development, expand ground floor uses, and expand the resident customer base. Number two, the proposed land zoning regulations are in this plan with minor tweaks from 2024. Provisions of relocation of housing units. So we do anticipate the relocation of an affordable housing unit, but that's part of tract C, and that's being negotiated with the regarding homes that relocate the 3-bedroom affordable unit to another site, 1-to-1. Is there number 4, property to be acquired? If the borough were to pursue condemnation, they may do so. They actually done so on several properties already, and they may do so on the classic cleaners. The relationship to the adjacent communities, county and state are going to discuss. Inventory of all affordable housing units. We did have that 1 unit discussed, and a plan for affordable housing replacement. Again, that is planned to be relocated. Otherwise, the provision of new affordable housing is required in all 4 tracts. Anytime there's a development, there will be 15% set aside. And finally, the plan for zero emission charging infrastructure, that's really related to public accessible charging infrastructure. This plan anticipates that tract C, which will have some public parking, those will have some charging infrastructure. And on all the other parcels, including tract A or B and D, where parking is provided on site, and if it's anticipated to be shared with the public, we will work with the redeveloper to make them, 1 or more of them, EV. With the charging infrastructure we're making ready. And that completes the presentation. So again, just a minor tweaks, I would argue, but the same plan, same track boundaries. The focus is on the track A, refined vision, and tweaks to the zoning, and as well as some cleanup to all the other parcels.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll open this up to comments and questions from the board. Anybody? Go. Ken, why don't you start?
Sure. How do the proposed changes to track B affect the current situation at the Sunoco and BB Big properties?
So the only change is the recognition that tract B, those 2 properties, is now designated area redevelopment combination. That does allow the borough to pursue combination if they were so choose. The reality is, I think we're going to pursue a different route for redevelopment, in that we might have a different plan, which will involve Sunoco, BB Bigs, the 2 parcels, and potentially other properties going towards the east. I have a feeling it's going to be a separate plan. It may be part of this as expanded B, or we take B out of this plan and do a separate standalone plan, which probably needs just for the Sunoco site.
Alan?
Yeah, in the document, it says that Bruce Koch is still the engineer, our engineer. You've seen that should be changed.
Which page is that? So on my acknowledgement page, I have R. Eric Robinson. Did I? Oh, I see it. It's on the at the bottom. I'll make that change from Bruce House to Eric. Repeat that. At the board engineer, correct, but not the borough engineer.
Okay,
Man, you got equal eyes.
He does.
Yes, it does.
Comma's out of place.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
So in terms of allowing the ground floor to have residential and at least some portion, and that was track A. I know track C already sort of the concept plans already have that, but this is for track A, it's going to change. Right?
Correct.
So track A, track B, and then if you add in BB Big and Sunoco, and then the beginning of track C, at least as I see the existing retail and likely retail, because that's a node, seems like a node of retail for me. The way track C is where the two-story restaurant is on the north-south second corner.
Mhm.
So how are you thinking about the redevelopment on track A such that if there is a split, some ground for residential and some ground for retail, that this is getting to the recommendation is that the retail be arranged along that frontage so that you get a node of retail that is concentrated, which can generate reinforcing and supporting retail uses, opposed to smearing them out, moving them closer to sort of the office buildings down there, right? So I don't know if that's something you've contemplated. This is a general redevelopment plan, so I wouldn't be so specific, but while you're here, sort of saying how are you representing the plan, or is that being represented somewhere else?
So it's not in the plan in terms of where the retail is located, other than it's permitted on the ground floor. What I don't have as part of this presentation is the presentation that was shared by the redeveloper at the community meeting, I think it was October 2025. And the concept plans showed retail space to be, I'll call it the right side of the building, which is in this view on the screen, it'll be closer to the Linicon building. So the idea is to create a node around that space. So, because I think the thought process is keep the retail sort of concentrated, essentially where the Mary building is up to South Second, and there'll be a much larger node that's sort of being created between South Second and Third, essentially where the track C building is up to South Fifth. That seems to be the largest concentration of retail space downtown. So this would read as a secondary node, but more concentrated.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, on the track D, the parking structure in the mixed-use building next to it, is that one developer?
You mean one property owner?
Yeah,
I believe it is one property owner.
yeah. And could those be redeveloped separately?
Yes.
The parking structure?
Well, and then work to make sure to comply with the parking requirements. But if that comes to fruition, we'll negotiate that phasing and so on. So.
And real quick, I noticed there's a semicolon on page 51. I was wondering, should that be a comma?
Trying to one up Alan.
No, it's not.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh, man.
I don't know the
Don't
difference.
take this seriously.
Well, funny you mentioned that, I do have a question about page 51.
See?
It's actually the bike and pedestrian plan.
Okay.
Is that, how concrete is that plan? Is that something that is anticipated to occur? Is that just a proposal at the moment? Because I think my concern would be the removal of the parking spaces, I guess vis-a-vis the, development of commercial residential spaces where people can park.
Yeah, so as part of the master plan, I remember this was an issue back in 2021 because there was no focus. What about circulation? So at the time, we did put in a map to acknowledge what the master plan, including a circulation plan, which includes the bike ped plan, what does it discuss and what can various properties implement as part of that bike ped plan. Realistically, it really probably be more subject to streetscape improvements and bike racks and corrals and whatnot. But as far as elimination of a parking lane for a bike lane, that's going to be a borough focused and really oriented project, similar to the Upper Raritan with the road diet that was just implemented. But frankly, Actually, Jeff, you might know more than me, but I haven't been really involved in looking at how much further this has gone since bike
I
lane.
mean, I can, I don't really have you sworn in as an expert in transportation planning, but this is a state highway. And, like Upper Raritan, you have to undergo an engineering study, at a minimum. And then, most likely going through the capital delivery process, which is a multi-year process, looking at various, traffic flows. And there'll be public meetings, like there was for Upper Raritan.
Okay.
My understanding of the bike ped plan was the 2019 plan and was adopted as part of the master plan.
Right.
Was showing potential and really desire lines for bike travel. And it's not to say that that's where the bike lane is going to go. There is a need for bicycle infrastructure.
Right.
Moving people from Upper Raritan towards the river.
Right.
Where that corridor actually ends up being. Could be Route.
Yes.
Could be Raritan Avenue, could be Dennison on one area, could be Magnolia on the other, right? So.
Yeah, so to, I guess, more directly answer your question, Board Member Ho, is to say that a redevelopment project won't necessarily be able to implement a bike lane on
Oh,
site.
no, yeah.
But
Fair
we'll
enough.
certainly be looking at improving bicycle infrastructure, and that includes wider, beefier sidewalks and street furniture.
Anyone else have questions for our planner? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up to the public for comments and questions. Seeing no one physically present with us tonight, I'll ask if anyone at home would like to play along.
Oh, there's no one.
I'm missing out. All right, seeing no
I'm so
participants
excited.
from the public, I'll close the public comment portion on this. And at this point, not having heard any substantive amendments being proposed or recommendations otherwise, I'll solicit a motion
Oh,
to.
I'm sorry,
okay.
just to make the adjustment to the acknowledgements page to
With the
acknowledge that
adjustments to the
Mr.
acknowledgement.
Cox is
Yes.
along with us, but he is with us in spirit.
Yes, I feel it would be substantially consistent with the correct professionals listed on the acknowledgement page. So subject to that ministerial amendment, I'll solicit a motion to find that this amended plan is substantially consistent or designed to effectuate the master plan.
And that is with regard to not only the plan, but also ordinance number 26-2124,
Yes,
as presented to the board.
thank you. Would anyone like to make that motion? Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brescher,
Yes.
Mr. Chin,
Yes.
Mr. Ho,
Yes.
Mr. Linares.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Pearlman,
Yes.
Mr. Stern Cardinal,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes,
Ms. Hand.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, I'll ask any of the members of the board if there's any other business they'd like to discuss this evening. Anyone else? All right, then I'll open up the meeting to public comments on any items not on the agenda. Seeing no one in the audience, and I presume no one's hopped on in the last minute and a half. I'll close the public comment portion of tonight's meeting and solicit a motion to adjourn. Let's go home.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made,
Second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.